everyone, I hope you're doing well. Today I want to show you one of my favorite children book illustrators. This is quite inspiring if you love illustration. I personally adore well illustrated and well written kids books. I enjoy reading them, and since Mason was very little, he had already really good book library. Oliver Jeffers is by far one of my favorite illustrators, if not actually the favorite. Never mind, the sun will be popping out. The weather has been terrible here, so I'm actually happy for any sun we can get, so I'm not going to moan about the sun ruining the video today. So Oliver Jeffers, the first book ever I have come across was Stuck, and I quickly realized why he is a bestseller when it comes to kids books. It's just beautiful work. So sometimes he just illustrates, and sometimes he illustrates and writes the text as well. But in every case, I find that the stories are quite quirky, and his illustrations make it even more fun to enjoy the story. So I kind of put the books into order from the earliest when they were published to the latest, and I think in most cases it looks like the books have been republished in this edition. So in 2004 it was published in hardback, then next year 2005 in paperback, and this particular edition was published in 2015, so almost 10 years later. So as you can see them, they are available now. So these are the latest versions. Basically I have got quite a stack here. As you can see, not all of them, there's still a few left, which I think I'm going to add to the collection. But also I think this year there has been a new release of one of his books. I need to look into it, but so far I'm just slowly growing the collection. Okay, let's enjoy flipping through and seeing his work, which is, like I said, super quirky, and I just love the color. I love that he uses mixed media. Sometimes it's watercolor, sometimes I felt like it was actually oil paint. So it's really interesting how he creates character, story, and all of that. So let's look into that. First book is How to Catch a Star. So I haven't read all of them yet because I literally just ordered a stash of the books. So they arrived yesterday, Sunday, and I ordered them on Saturday, so this was really fast. Okay, so here are a few illustrations. What I like about them is that you can actually see that it's like granulating watercolor. You can see the mediums. You can see that the color is there to tell a story. There isn't too much details, just enough to go along with the text, with the story. And so you will see in the other books there is kind of even more. I mean, this as a first book, I'm looking through every page with you, is probably one of his more simpler works, but we'll get to the ones that I absolutely adore. Lost and Found. So this is a good story. We read this one. This was a book gifted. I picked the book and my parents gifted it to Mason on their stay. So my dad wrote it, little text for Mason. Lost and Found. And let's see. So, oh yeah. So this already gets quite good. So I like the scene. I like the houses, the kind of the environment, the coziness of things. And it's a lovely story about a friendship that the boy has with the penguin. And you can see the character was exactly the same from the previous book. So it's this kind of stick man with a round hat and a striped sweater. Now, I love sweaters that are striped, so that's probably why I enjoy it so much. So here it seems like it could be either like wax crayons or oil crayons, or indeed it could be oil paint, possibly even acrylics, because of the strokes and because of the marks. I love the drama that is created in these books. So let's see. Again, love the color palette here. Loads of turquoise and that warm kind of red works really beautifully. And that burnt sienna with a bit of orange as well there. Beautiful color palette. So here we go. Love the watercolor here as well. You can see the granulating watercolor, probably a bunch of cobalt teal or something like that. Really, really pretty. Okay, let's look. The clouds have come in, so I don't think we will have any problems with the light anymore. Back to that weather, British summer weather. Anyway, the heart and the bottle. So let's look into this one. So here the girl is the character. Haven't read it yet. We have read the Lost and Found, so that was cute story. So here we have got like a little bit of collage going on here, and what looks like a lot of pencil. I do like it when he combines pencils with like watercolors. And then what I also like is that the characters just have these sticks for legs. I like the look of it and the style of it, because at the end of the day, it's telling you a story. It's quite funny how their nose is sort of this, like a pink sausage in the middle of the face. So, I'm not giving you away the entire story. But basically, that's the illustration of this book. Now, let's look at Stack. Like I said, this was the first book ever that I purchased for Mason, and love the character. So the boy is now again similar to the first two books, but he has a bit of hair going on, and he has a different type of a t-shirt or shirt. And what's interesting is that it's not clear if these are just legs sticking out or if he's wearing some trousers. But the point is, the story is told without too much detail to some things. So for example, here you can see he doesn't have eyebrows in the illustration, but when he is furious, there is like a long line to suggest his emotions. So this is something I like to pay attention to when I look at illustration. Like here again, no mouth, no nothing except for these two dots to suggest eyes. And then if he's trying to throw something onto the tree, he sticks his tongue to kind of, to focus on it, I guess. And the other thing I like is when Oliver starts, oh, the sun did come back, but I don't think for too long. When he kind of hand writes the story. So this is the book that he wrote and illustrated. The others, I'm not sure. Let's see, I didn't tell you. I think the others he did all of them. I think there are a few books coming up where he maybe collaborated. We'll find out in a second. So again, loving the illustrations. Also, sometimes you'll find he uses a background like this sort of old paper or something, which I'm not sure if he illustrates on top of it or whether he digitally layers the image onto that background. But I love the colors, I love the vibrancy of his work. Look at that. Just popping on that pink, the orange, that turquoise green, the red. All these colors are just popping off the page. I love how he creates a shadow using pink, because, you know, why not? So I like illustrations to be simple. I don't like when they have too much detail. So yeah. So you can see, just putting this shadow here, it suggests that he's kind of like, you know, flung in the air. Whereas if you wouldn't have that, you're not sure what he's doing. Is he standing somewhere? Is he not? So that helps us to understand what's going on. So yeah, great book. So let me just recap. These books so far, they're all written and illustrated by Oliver Jeffers until, yeah, so this is written by Drew Daywalt, and again Drew Daywalt for the sequel, and that's it. So actually just these two books by the looks of it. The rest were all written and illustrated by Oliver Jeffers. Okay, this Moose Belongs to Me. Haven't read it yet, but it looks like there is some oil paint going on, and brush strokes here suggest oil paint to me, as well as on the top here just acrylic paint. It could be acrylic paint, I guess. It could well be, but it reminds me more of oil paint for some reason. It's that translucency that you generally get from oil paint. So if I bring it up here, and then we have a little bit of pencil here just to add a little bit of detailing, so you can see ever so slight. And then it looks like maybe this is some sort of printed vintage paper that he painted on top. Hard to say, but it looks cool. So whether it's, again, oil paint or acrylic paint, but there's definitely pencil. So this is pencil, then the writing would be pencil, and then these sort of marks that are added are also pencil. And what else do we have? So there is this character who's, it looks like, yeah, so maybe this was like a vintage paper he printed, and then on top of it he drew these characters, because through this pencil, or not the pencil, the paint that he scribbled with a mark, like making a mark on the paper, basically you can see the print of the paper. So it would suggest to me that he just layered the paint over that. Okay, and then here is when we get into what I believe is 100% oil paints. What a beautiful scene. It's like a painting, isn't it? Same thing here. Lovely color palette. I mean, you can see these typical oil paint marks when the oil paint is layered thickly. And then I guess on top of it, nice bit of pencil. I wonder if this was actually printed on paper and then on top he went with a pencil, because the pencil is really, really solid, and on oil paint not necessarily will you get that solid pencil mark. So it could be maybe both. Here definitely pencil again. Love the use of color, so he's matching the pencil to his pants and his bow tie and the shirt. And got two types of blues there, like a sky blue and a ultramarine blue. Yeah, lovely book. Oh, look at this. Definite oil painting. I mean, if you took these characters out, you know, you could potentially see it hung in a gallery. It's that beautiful. And it just makes it even more special with his illustration in there. I don't know, I wonder if these were painted by him, or like I said, if it's a case of him making a scan copy and then on top adding his characters, like whether this was, you know, like a license purchase or something like that. But in any case, whether it's his idea or his actual work, it's stunning. Okay, The Day the Crayons Quit. This was a great book suggested by Mason's tutor, and I was amazed that I didn't hear about this book before. It's lovely. It's so fun. I highly recommend it. It's yeah, if you love art and if your children enjoy art, it's a good book to have. So it's a story about a box of crayons that all of us had. I still have my first ever box of crayons, which I saved. And yeah, everyone probably remembers some funny stories about them. And this is such a creative way of telling your childhood story about crayons. And I wonder if this has been inspired by maybe one of his children, or whether it was inspired by his own childhood. So there's a little kind of letter, a little story about most of the colors, and it is quite funny. It's a must read. And then at the end here we have a proper child's painting, which is still very, very cute. Again, I wonder if he just asked one of his children to paint it, or whether basically he based a story on a collection of his child's illustrations. I don't know. It's hard to tell. This is how good he is. It's hard to tell because these look like they very easily could have been just, you know, something that he did. Maybe he saved. Like, these look very, very old-fashioned. I doubt that his children would be coloring in something like that. You can see the pages have gone yellow. So it could be that it's one of his or something like that. But then the characters are very much his. Maybe he just tried to make it look like it was drawn by a child. Either way, it's just so funny. It's full of humor. And then the book that's the sequel is The Day the Crayons Came Home. So the first one is The Day the Crayons Quit. So they basically left. And this is when they come back home. And I'm not going to give away the story here, but just to give you a flip through. Some lovely photographs of vintage postcards. And again, great usage of writing the story with the crayons. This is a great page. about a neon crayon. I didn't know neon crayon exists. It's on black paper, matte black, and there is like, you can feel it with your finger. It's slightly raised to make it look like they're glowing, but it actually looks like it's glowing. So me and Mason tried to see in the dark if it's actually glowing. I don't think it is, but it's a great way to make you think that it is. And then there's the neon crayon, so a few special colors there, and there hasn't been in the previous story. So yeah, lovely story. So this book originally is one of his earlier books. So it was written, I think, in 2006 or something. Yeah, 2006. And it was first published as hardback and then paperback in 2007, as it happens, a year later. But this edition has been also republished 10 years later, so 2016. And it's a fun book to have because it has some quirks to it, like this, to make it look like it's been bitten into. So it's called Incredible Book Eating Boy. So this boy likes to eat books, and the story or the book is beautifully not only illustrated but really, really well thought out. So here we have pages that are that you have some paint going over, and then you have the character on top. So I really love the way this book has been designed and made. True art. I mean, you can see here it looks like the cover of an old, super old book, and he's done the artwork on top of it. So he painted that dinner table on top of the cover, which is super creative. And then same thing, if you actually look into everything, you can see there's textures coming through. And again, this is Cambridge University something, I can't see exactly what, but again, an old book cover that he colored or used paint to cover, and then set the scene here and painted it. What a beautiful way of doing it. And again, there's loads of texture here, so I would imagine that this is some sort of a canvas. But then here we've got vintage notepad kind of, or notebook pages. And then another cover and illustration on top. And yeah, there's just so much beautiful work that's gone into this book. If you want to make a little gift to someone, I think this is a very giftable book. It's a collector's item, I would say. Really beautifully done and very quirky, very clever, beautiful. Colors are gorgeous. And here you go. The last page. And even the cover page of the back has been bitten into. Great book. The last book I have here is Here We Are. Notes from the Living on Planet Earth. So this one says here, New York Times #1 bestseller. And this is one of the latest ones that I have. But like I said, I think there is a new one. So this one first was published in 2017, but this edition was published this year. So the way it is, it's been published this year. So this book we haven't read yet. The one I showed you, The Incredible Book Eating Boy, I actually had that from a long time ago as well, along with Stuck, or maybe even before Stuck, come to think. Oh, let's look into this. So here is going to be loads of kind of color and imagination, because I would assume there's going to be different creatures from different planets maybe. But you can see loads of pictures for children to look through, and they would really enjoy. I mean, Mason loves these books, and I think so many children would enjoy not just reading them, but also looking at everything, because that's what he's so fantastic. He's tapping into that childhood imagination, which he somehow managed not to lose. You know, as we get older, we lose that fantasy world that we enjoy when we are little, but he still maintained that. He knows inside the child's fantasy world, and that's why it's just a really fun time for children to read his books. And also, if there's some children that don't enjoy reading, I think this is a great way to encourage them through these sort of illustrations. Okay, so that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a blast for me to flip through all of them. We've got quite a few, well, probably about 3 or 4 left to dive into, which I'm super looking forward to. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.